Hello, in this video we're going to see what computer programming is really for. Yeah, you want to get a job doing computer programming, that's great, and you sometimes want to make games, and it's basically the tools that you use to create digital things. So it could be for job, it could be for hobby, it could be for fun, it could be for a lot of different things. But a lot of times, a lot of people who actually program don't actually program for the immediate thing that they need. For instance, we do a lot of things on a computer all the time, and sometimes we go look for an application to make our life a lot easier. If we're coders and we know how to program, we can do that ourselves. So today we're going to be looking at that exact concept. Here, let's say if I was studying and I was going through some material, and let's say I wanted to copy this, and I hit Control C and I copy this, and maybe I wanted something down here, some information down here. These are some steps here on this website, and I want to copy this and I want to copy that. Now, normally what would have to happen is I would copy and I would go paste it inside of, let's say, like a text editor or something like that. When I do that, then I have to keep going back and forth between the things I want to copy. And if I go search another website and I want to copy some text out of that, then what happens is I'm going back and forth between applications to be able to do that. Now, obviously, you can use shortcut keys to make that a lot easier. But why don't we make an app that does that for us? So every time we copy something on our computer, text for now, we'll do images later, it saves it in our application or in our database or both. So that's basically what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be creating an app that every time we highlight something and copy it, text for now, it's going to save it in our application and save it in our database. So let's go ahead and get started on that. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to be using C#. And this is a video for beginners, so you don't have to worry about knowing C# so much. So here I am inside of Visual Studio. Once you've downloaded it, you can go ahead and run it. And here's what you're going to get when you first open it. Now, you may not see this create new project because you probably haven't had any projects if you're just opening it up. But if you have already had Visual Studio installed, you'll see these projects over here. Over here on the right-hand side, you'll see these template projects. And this is where you normally start in Visual Studio, depending on what kind of application you want to create. The first thing we need to do, though, is we need to change this from Visual Basic up here, and we want to change this to C# because we'll be using C# in this video. And we're going to go here to Windows, and we want to go make sure that this is at desktop. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go down here to WPF application. You go ahead and click on that, and then I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to click Next. Now here's where we're going to name our application. So I'm going to name this Capture Copy App Tutorial, or maybe I'll take the tutorial out. And then you can name yours whatever you like. And then you want to go over here and select where you want to save it. And then make sure that Place Solution and Project in the same directory is clicked. Now you go ahead and click Next down here. And let me put this mouse, put a circle on this mouse so you can see where my mouse is. We'll go Next here. And then here you can go ahead and choose the framework. I'm choosing .NET 6.0. If you want to choose 7, that's fine. Any of these would work. Hit Create. And here we are inside of Visual Studio. Now when it first opens up, you'll see your toolbar over here. Because we're dealing with a WPF application, we also have two files that we have to concern ourselves with. This toolbar has all the tools that you can use to make your UI, like buttons and labels and that kind of thing. And over here you have your canvas. This is your design view. This is where your application will show exactly how it's going to look when you run it or when you compile it, when the user runs this application. You got to make sure, though, that when you're using this, you don't get confused between these two windows here, because what can happen is if when I go here to this window, this is the code view window, it normally opens up with both of these windows accessible. You can close it, but that doesn't mean it's gone. It just means you have to reopen the code view. And so right now I'm in a design view. If I want to open the code view, all I have to do is go over here to my Explorer, my Solutions Explorer. Now, a solution is not your application. A solution is like a collection of applications. And currently right now we only have one, so that's not a big deal. It's always going to look this way. But sometimes you might have multiple projects inside a solution. So make sure that you remember that the solution itself right here is not the project. And as you can see, it says one of one projects in this solution. This is the project. This is the part that you want to export. This is the part you want to save. So here inside of the solution, our captured copy app is inside of here. And this is where all the files that exist for our application to run and to do everything that it's going to do, and all this dependencies and so on and so forth. So the main ones we'll be using in this video is this main window file here. And it says main window.xaml, and that's what you're looking at here. But when I click on this little arrow, you'll see there's a C# code down here. It says main window.xaml.cs. This is the brains behind the application. This is the code. So I'm going to double click on that. And again, you see that tab open up here. So this is the code behind, and here is the UI. So you'll notice this all throughout modern day programming. A separation of concerns is what it's called. So it used to be where you would code something, right? And then as coding it, everything was just put together. There was no separation between UIs. This is a long time ago, obviously. Down here, what we have is our XAML. What is XAML? Well, it's the same thing as HTML would be for a website. It basically tells the application how to structure the interface. So you see there's this window object, and then there's this grid object. This window object has an open and close brackets here. So that means that this is one item and this one is another item. And normally what you would have inside a XAML is you would have an open item and a close item, which makes one object. So this grid has an open and a close. And the way you can tell whether it's open or closed is you'll see here, what you'll see here is this little slash right here. See that slash? That's closed grid. And there's no slash here, so that's open grid. So that's how you can tell. And that's the majority of objects that you'll be using in XAML. Now, I don't want you to get confused with XAML at all, but just understand that XAML is a representation of what's here inside of the window. And over here, if I scroll down here, you'll see that there's this properties, and the properties represent whatever I have selected. So right now, you can see I have the grid selected. But if I go inside of my XAML, and I want you to try this too, just put your mouse over the window and click on that, and you'll see the type window was selected. So the properties of the windows are here. So everything that this window can do, well, most of the things that the window can do is in here and in here. And why did I go to the XAML select the window? Because sometimes up here it's hard to get to select something you're looking for. As you see over here, this grid is in front of the window, so it's hard for me to get to the window and select it. A lot of other things start happening. So to make it a lot easier for me, since I know that XAML, I can select the window, I just go down here and select the window if I want to change the properties. So everything that we do inside of here is basically going to be in this interface. If there's anything different, I don't want to go through the depths of this IDE because there's a lot to learn, but there's a lot that you don't have to learn in order to start building your application right away. So I moved around certain things, I've clicked certain things, and I changed a few things, just something small. And that's why you see this little star up here. That star basically means that you have unsaved elements inside of your project. So what I would like to do is hit Control S, and it saves my entire solution, well, my entire project. So it saves everything in there. So now what we can do is go straight away into creating our application, our user interface. So what I like to do is prototype my images. My UI first. So I'm going to go here inside of PowerPoint, and I'm going to prototype it first. I'm going to go here to Insert Shapes, and I'm going to say I want the window. This is going to be my window, And there's going to be a title at the top. So it's going to be something like this. All right, and that title is going to be something like, let's say, clipboard logger. Maybe that's what it can say. And I'll put that over here to the left side. And now over here, I'm going to want a file menu. So let me shrink this a little bit. Duplicate that. And I want this to be my file menu. And then I might have something that says app here that actually exports the app or something. Okay. I'm just going to change the color of all of these. So that way it looks something similar to what the app would be. That's going to be white. And this will be... select one. And I'm going to change that to like a gray. And then I'll change this. Change the text here to black. All right, so now here is going to be like a list box. So I'm going to do something like here. I'm going to add another shape. I'll put that in here. And I'm going to right click on that shape and I'm going to go to fill and I'm going to go to picture. I'm going to go from online pictures and I'm going to select, find XAML list box. Let's see what we got here. This is a good one here. Here we go. I'm going to select that, insert it. Good. So this would be my list box. I don't want this header and I don't want this body. I just want the list. So what I'm going to do with this selected, actually, there's an easier way. Once I have it selected, I go to, picture format. And I'm going to go to crop and I'm going to hit that crop there. And I'm going to crop this. So it can see, so it can look something similar to the application I'm thinking about making. And so I'm going to hit enter. Or click on the outside, and then I'm going to drag this here and drag this here. Okay, so I got a good sense of my my interface and my application. And so now what I want to be able to do is go ahead and start making this. So here I am back in Visual Studio, and the first thing we need to do is change this title. And so right now, just like before, when I tried to select the window, it would select the grid. So I'm going to go down here and select this window. And then instead of this name, because this name is the name that you use for coding purposes, we want the title up here. So we're going to go down to common, and we're going to go down to here to title. We're going to change that to, let's say, clipboard logger. Or whatever your application's name is up to you. I'm going to hit enter. And now you see up here it says clipboard logger. And the first thing I want to do before I go any further, I got to make sure my application runs. So I'm going to hit F5. And there it is. It runs and it has the proper title there. I'm going to go ahead and close that. Now, to do anything inside of XAML, we need to be able to organize things in such a way that when you put objects in here, it's just not randomly placed. So what we're going to look for, we're going to go here to our search box. We're going to look for a dock panel. I'm going to type dock up here and you'll see this dock panel. Now I'm going to take this dock panel and I'm going to drag it here inside of my window. Now it took the entire screen, which is fine for now. But we have our dock panel here, and you notice down here in the grid that dock panel was added there. Now the next thing we want to do, if you remember our PowerPoint, we have this other menu here, right? So we got the dock panel, because what the dock panel will do, it'll dock these things on top of each other. So whenever I put something in here, it'll basically stack them on top of each other automatically. instead of us manually placing things. So that's why we use the dock panel. So now we need this menu right here. So let's go ahead and find ourselves a menu. I'm gonna go menu, and there we have a menu. So I'm just gonna drag it right there in the dock panel. Boom, right there. And now you notice in the XAML, it says menu, and it opened the dock panel, and it made a closed dock panel instead of me having to type all of that. But you do want to be aware of what it's adding here. The only thing you'll notice here is that our menu was pushed to the left, right? Instead of being where we expected it to be. Now, the reason is because we're going to have to actually edit this menu so that way it looks the way we want it to look. And so to do that, what we're going to do here is we're going to go to this dock panel, and we're going to go to this window. And we want to change what's in here. We don't want this to say width 100% right now. Okay, we're going to highlight that. And we're going to change this to dock panel dot dock, right? And then what we want is top. Now you'll notice it looks like the menu disappeared, but it hasn't disappeared. We just have no menu items. The menu was pushed all the way to the top now, and that's what you should see. Now what we could do here, now that we have our menu, is go ahead and just start adding our menu items. And there's a couple of ways we can do that. We can go add our menu items like we see here. There's a couple of ways we can do that. The first way we could do is go here and go under common. First select your menu. Go under common. See, I have the menu selected. Go under common. And then you'll see this area here says items, collections, and you can click on that and start adding either buttons, checkboxes, and menu items, as you see here. And you can add that. Go here to menu items, click OK and add it. And then you can change some of the properties here. Okay, that's one way to do it. But what we want to do for educational purposes as well, and you should probably learn how to do this, is we're going to go ahead and type it out manually. So the first thing we need to do is change this now. If you notice, this menu item right here is closed off, and there's no matching menu item closed. This is a shortcut way to create a open and close object without having to have two of them like this dock panel. But because we want to put something inside of this menu, we need to make it to where it has both open and close parameters, like the grid has open and close parameter. We want to make the menu that way. So I'm going to get rid of this slash. I'm going to go right in front of that, and I'm going to open and close it. And automatically you'll see it's giving me a suggestion for menu. So I can hit tab and automatically menu pops up there. If you don't get that, you can just type this part and you will be fine. Now I want to go between these two and make some space. This is where my menu item is going to go. So how do we create a menu item? We just open it and put menu. Sorry, we're going to open that and type menu. And then you see down here it says menu items. So this is our IDE helping us out as we type. So it's giving us suggestions as to what we could mean as we're typing. It's called IntelliSense. So as we start typing, it gives us suggestions. And if you already know, just continue typing. But as you see the suggestions, you can go ahead and hit tab and use that suggestion if that's what you were looking for. So now we have our menu item. Now we want to add these elements. These are attributes. Anything you see in blue like this are attributes, things we add to the menu item. And the first thing we want to add to the menu item is the header, which is what you see, what the user sees as the menu itself. So I'm going to type header, I'm going to hit tab, and I'm going to hit export. Or, yeah, I'm going to have an export button. Remember we said we have an export button to where you can export it maybe as a list or something like that. And I'm going to leave that just like that. And so that menu item closes, and it closes with double, or like I did before, I can close it like this with single, and that works as well. Now if you look up here, I have this export. So I have my first menu item. So now I want to go ahead and make another menu item. So how do I do that? Well, I go like the same way. I go menu item, and then I want the header. I want that header to be app, or maybe I should make it file. Yeah. So instead of this export here, I'm going to want it to be file. Let's do it this way, because I can allow people to go to file just like regular applications. Like if I go here to Visual Studio, bring this down. If I go to Visual Studio and I wanted to export, I go to file and then I see this menu here, right? So I want to go here to file. Now I really want to show you guys something really quick, what just happened. Because I didn't finish typing this out, there's an error in the XAML. And so you'll notice this says invalid markup. Whenever you mess this up, it doesn't know how to render the screen. So this is what you will see until you fix whatever's down here. So let's go ahead and finish this up. So I'm going to change this to file, but I want a menu item in that file, right? So I don't want this to be closed this way. I want to put something in here, so I have to have something like this. Now I can put something inside of that file menu, which was going to be export. There, that's much better. So now we have a file and we have export, and here it is up here. So if I click on it, nothing happens. See, nothing happens. So what I can do is hit F5 and test it out. Now when I click on that, I see export. Nothing happens because we haven't coded it yet. So we're just getting everything the way we'd like to see it. So now I want a menu next to that, not inside of there. I want another menu next to that. I want another menu item. And again, we're going to type header as the attribute. And we want that header to be app. Now I can go ahead and put my app there. And then I want something inside of this app. I want a couple of menu items inside this app. I want it to be where you can close the app. Maybe that should have been another file. But you can close the app and you can clean the database. Let's do something like that. So I'm going to go ahead and open and close that menu item. So I have an open component and a close component. And inside of that, I'm going to create another menu item. So menu item. And that menu item will have a header. And that header will be called close app. And now I'm going to add some more attributes in that later. But for right now, I'm just going to go ahead and close that up. And I'm going to make one more menu item. And you should type this out because it's going to make you a better coder by typing out. And then I'm going to make this called clean database. Whenever, ooh, bad. Clean database. There we go. And I'm going to make this capital. Now what I like to do is I like to test it every time I do something like this, make sure everything works. I can see the interface is fine, so I know the XAML is fine. But a lot of times you want to test it just to make sure you're on the right track. So I'm going to hit Control S to save it. I'm going to hit F5 to run it. And then I'm going to check out my menus. Ooh, nice. Got an application working. Good. Now we have everything getting closer and closer to the way it looked in our prototype. So our prototype is here. This is how our application is supposed to work. And maybe what I can do, maybe later what we can do is make some context windows, like when you right click it, this sort of thing pops up. But we'll deal with that when we go to it. Right now, we finished our interface, and now we're ready for the next step, which is coding. So in this tutorial, what we did was we basically created our interface. We talked about the UI. We talked about Visual Studio. We talked about just starting everything. And the main thing that you want to take from this video is the idea that the interface and XAML and the properties all work together. You really want to practice this idea and just get your interface working. Right now, just keep it very simple until you start understanding how the code works. Then you can basically change it to whatever you want. So hopefully this was helpful. And make sure you watch the next video because that's when we're going to get into the code. So I'll see you guys there. If you have any comments, leave them in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys next time.